Elijah.
So, good evening to you all. This is the Regeneration, Vibrancy and Climate Change Scrutiny Review Board. The date is Tuesday the 24th of June 2025 and it is 6 o'clock. Do we have any apologies?
I've received no apologies.
No apologies. Late items introduced by the Chair. I have no late items to introduce. Are there any declarations of interest? No, not interested at all. Good, that's what I like to. So the minutes of the last meeting held on the 4th of March. Those of us that were there, they look, what I've seen, they look about right. Yes, thank you. Right, so item 5. I believe we're already on item 5, haven't we? We've not even done the minutes. Work programme refresh. Who's going to talk about this? Is that you?
I'll just take that quickly. So thank you, members. This is start of a slightly new approach to work programming. I really encourage you to see work programming as one of the first steps to good scrutiny. I guess it's impossible to kind of maintain a watching brief over everything that the council does. And so what we're really encouraging is that you take a really strategic and priority focused approach to deciding what you want to focus on. And I guess the point of today and the point of Werner and Tammy's presentations is to give you the information necessary so you can make informed decisions about what you want to focus on. I will say, and I think it's in the context of thinking about the kind of resource and the time that goes into setting up scrutiny boards, that we'd be looking for meetings themselves to have between 2 or 3 items, but that will allow you to really deep dive into matters. But for items that you feel have a specific complexity or that you're particularly focused on, we'd also encourage you to think about other kind of creative ways of looking at these things, not necessarily in this kind of formal setting, looking at task and finish groups or even kind of shorter, sharp reviews, which we can kind of work on together, and I can help you kind of set up. So that's all from me. I think the next item will be Tammy and Werner, unless you've got any questions about the kind of general approach we're proposing.
I think that's quite a good way forward. Right, so moving on to item 6 then. So it's now Werner and Tammy. Nice to see you both again. Over to you.
So what we thought we'd do with regards to item 6 is that in helping you think about what we're going to be for the few years, is to talk through some of the core functions of both services, talk about some of the issues and opportunities that we're facing as a council within Derby, and then to highlight some of our kind of work areas and key focus within the services so that you can inform your thinking around what we might want to look in more detail at. So if we go on to the next slide, in terms of the city growth and vibrancy service, this is very much an outward-looking service, as you're aware. It's not just about what the council does, but how it leads and supports others within the city, and facilitates activity by others within the city and within the region. And primarily, we have 4 kind of core functions, which are about creating a better Derby, if you like, for businesses, citizens. And it's about physical development, but it's also about how that economic development function supports that physical development. So, in thinking about the city, it's important to think about what is it we're trying to achieve, why are we doing it, and how are we doing that. So we've got 4 key areas, very much focused around supporting businesses and economic growth. Thinking about diversification of the economy in particular, we've got an economy that's very focused on key industries and on big business. We think about, we deal with physical regeneration and development, and so that's housing, regeneration and delivery, it's commercial development and delivery, it's infrastructure, and it's creating places. An important part of that place making is about creating a vibrant city, and that is about our crucial tourism network. So how do we attract more people into Derby? How do we provide facilities and opportunities for people and residents in the city? How do we attract some talent? And then finally, it's about how we support businesses and business innovation. So to start at the scale of government activities aiming at the roles of the council, and how do we attract big business investment. And take the next slide. So the sustainability department, I guess we've come together in a slightly different way over the last 18 months really to look at the services overall. And we, like Tally and wider economic development and Vibrancy, are an outward facing department, but we also have a big internal statutory functions. So a lot of some of the statutory functions from, a highways authority perspective, local lead flood authority, those sorts of things sit in this department. So there are some key things that we need to deliver and have a much more internal, run-of-the-mill things that you see every single day, working with your residents out in the streets. But one thing I wanted to refer to first was around this idea around promoting active environments. So this overlaps with the community scrutiny board really here, I think this particular role, and the health and wellbeing board, as aligned to yourselves. But what we have in the service is a focus around physical activity, and the Move More Derby strategy sits in our department. So I guess we are thinking about that, thinking about, yes, we've got in hard infrastructure, but how are we relating that to the people that then use that infrastructure? How are we promoting physical activity, sustainable travel, and also green spaces? So parks and open spaces sit within the department, but again, that's more focused around the community's scrutiny board. But it's a key piece of work, and how those things come together in that place-based approach that Tally was talking is a key. Is going to be a key focus over the coming year. I guess we have the strategic lead for carbon reduction and climate change. So the climate change action plan, if you like, is hosted in my department, but as you can imagine, and you'll be very well aware, it's not delivered by us in isolation. It can't be. Very much like you'd imagine health and safety, the strategic lead sits in one place, but actually it's everyone's business, like safeguarding, etc. So the climate plan sits there, and that's a key focus for us, how we reduce carbon, and then how do we adapt, and again that comes back to green space. I would say that investing very much akin to what Tally's been saying, and how our two departments work together is certainly an important focus in the context of now we've got our regional combined authority, but how we're investing in mobility. So I use that word very deliberately rather than transport. This is about how we move people, not about how we move vehicles, not about I'm moving this car from A to B. It's how do I get people into work? How do I get them into places where they live? How can they move into where the housing and the growth that Tally is going to deliver? And how do we fit that together and work towards a more sustainable city with connectivity and mobility? And then also thinking about that, how does that expand out into the region? Because we know a lot of people that live in Derby work elsewhere, and a lot of people that live elsewhere come and work in Derby. So that's quite important as well. And finally, I guess the whole of the department, particularly going back to that statutory functions that we have, it's absolutely anchored in infrastructure. It's anchored in our highways, it's anchored in our drainage, street lighting, structures, all of those sorts of things. So one of the most important parts of our service and how we think about it is robust asset management. We need to know that we are doing the right treatment at the right time in the right place, and absolutely that is something that affects everybody in the city. So I would say those are our key functions.
So if we talk a little bit about, we've got a long list here of challenges and opportunities, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but essentially the kind of challenges we face break down into 4 or 5 key areas. So we've got kind of some entrenched social and economic issues which we're trying to tackle. So those are things around our economic makeup, our skills, connectivity, health, housing demand, poverty, deprivation. And then we've got some kind of cultural issues which are around investor and market confidence, perception of the city, some of the things around the lack of employment opportunities, particularly in the city centre. So our major employment sites are based outside of the city centre, which provides us with specific challenges within the city and how we develop the city centre. We've got physical issues, so things like vacant premises, we've got issues around land supply and land ownership, we've got a lot of brownfield land, but our authority boundaries run right to the border. So in terms of our ability to change what we're doing, we're quite constrained. And then we've got some physical assets like the ring road or particular buildings in the city that cause us challenges. And then the final kind of set of challenges are kind of what I call fiscal issues. So we've got particular problems at the moment around rising construction costs and relatively low values, which means viability of development is quite challenging. We've got budgetary challenges both within the council and with our partners, and at the moment that's a particular challenge for people like our cultural partners. So the museums, Quad, Data, have all faced some real significant cultural challenges, which has affected their ability to invest long term in the city, and so we've got real issues around their long term sustainability.
And the opportunities seems to be a lot less of those, which is I guess we're
Just like a lot more challenges than there is opportunities.
always. And I guess that we are thinking particularly over the coming year, and we cannot ignore the arrival of a combined authority. And thinking about Derby in a regional context has to be a key thing that we need to think about. The opportunity of that is that it comes with a high level of funds and on a longer term basis than we've ever had before. So we are not going into bidding rounds for little pieces and pockets of money as Derby against Nottingham, against North Derbyshire, against South Derbyshire, as we have in the past, because we've got a funding source through the combined authority where there's devolved power, there's devolved funding, but it comes through the filter of that regional body. And it's very new. It's very new. There's an opportunity to influence that, particularly as it's emerging and thinking about its strategic role. So for both of us, things like the inclusive growth plan, the local growth plan, how we're thinking about a local transport plan, because it is the regional transport authority, and they are seeing signs of them talking about spatial plan, and art, those sorts of things are now coming out into the press, into the media, and into our thinking. So that feels like a really, really important opportunity. And I guess the great thing, if we think about Derby in a regional context, is we are the economic powerhouse of the region. We really are. We have these incredible industries, global industries that sit within our city boundary or very close to it. And so, we have some huge opportunity and, a real chance to attract the attention of the combined authority because of that. So, which is definitely a good thing. And I think part of that we don't always think about it, but some of those Rolls Royces, the Toyotas, the Alstons, etc., they are really well connected. They're connected across to global networks. Just think about a local supply chain, but think about that on a national and global basis. So, they're partnerships. If we're thinking about technology, advanced manufacturing and engineering, that their proximity to some of that knowledge base and understanding is second to none, really. We're a real opportunity. Okay, we might not have the financial markets of London, but we really compete with almost with the South East on this. And I guess our central location, so we're very close as a city to the East Midlands Airport. We know that the Freeport and some of those developments are going to capture Empire's attention, but also the M1 corridor and the rail hubs, the strategic rail hubs across to Birmingham, and our connections with the West Midlands. So those are real opportunities there for how we want to think. I guess the last one I would say there, which I know again crosses over with the communities scrutiny board, is there's a real enthusiasm for nature regeneration. We've been a city, and I guess going on to the city centre, it's not been as green as we might have wanted, but we've got a big river. We know we've got that flood risk investment that's already going to out there. So there's a real enthusiasm for people to get together and think about nature regeneration, think about greening, think about open space, and think about wellness and health as part of that, not just about the infrastructure. I think we're going to have just Catherine and Nigel to be in the next bit, just to give you a bit of variety, to talk about our focus for the coming year.
Yes, okay. So, hi everyone. So, I suppose in this section, we just thought it'd be helpful for you to have a bit of a flavour of some of the specific work and projects address those challenges and opportunities that Tammy and Bernard have been talking through. And in terms of my service area, broadly speaking, I've got the regeneration side that's involved very much in those physical development, city centre work, and I've got the economic growth side, which is very much involved in supporting businesses in investment and diversification. So a lot of our work this year has already been referenced, is very much about integrating closely with the combined authority to make sure that the plans and the strategies that they're bringing forward respond to Derby's needs, respond to Derby's challenges, and we are in a good opportunity to help EMCA deliver as well on regional level objectives. So as a specific example, Derby City directly received a programme of funding over 3 years that was called the Shared Prosperity Fund. We were responsible for allocating that and spending it on a series of things that were economic growth related. So we have 4 major projects that we grant funded across the University, Marketing Derby, the Chamber of Commerce and our own employment and skills team. So we were directly involved in working with organisations to provide support to businesses. That's changed now. We still get a level of shared prosperity fund, but most of it now goes through EMCA, and EMCA are deciding and working with us to look at regionally what kind of business support is the best provision. So our focus is shifting from a lot of direct delivery in the past to being more now about facilitating, helping, enabling and working with EMCA. So that's one example. And then in terms of maybe if I do my rather than bullet point by bullet point, if I cover my areas, and then I'll allow Nigel to do the same. But the 2 other key things I'd highlight is the whole diversification agenda is massive. And there's as an example, we were heavily involved in bringing Smart Park to Derby, which, as many of you will know, is a food manufacturing and distribution park on the former Celanese site. We helped get gap funding in place to address the land remediation issues that existed and stop that development happening in the past. We continue to work with Smart Park to help them land in with investment. So if they're getting interest from businesses, how can we help them navigate the planning process? How can we help make sure that the right services are on tap to allow for their shift working, all of those kinds of things. So we're working with them on an ongoing basis. And I suppose the other key one in the context of what you've heard so far is the opportunity at the investment zone at Infinity Park, because EMCA have said they want their investment zone strategy and the resources and funding that go with it to be focused on key sectors which include advanced manufacturing and green industries, and that is right up Derby Street. And therefore the work that we want to bring forward with partners like Rolls-Royce, the University of Derby, is all kind of plugged right into the strategy, and that's where we've got a huge opportunity to bring forward facilities at Infinity Park and beyond that really help those sectors to grow and help us to get more of their supply chain businesses here, help to encourage more innovation and help more people from the local area get the jobs that are created as a result. All of those things are really important. And then the final ongoing thing, obviously, where city centre regeneration is concerned, from both across all those things, housing, commercial and leisure and culture, we've got an ongoing portfolio of projects and programmes that include, have included in the past, as you're well aware, the performance venue, for example, Rain Live, and the market hall. Yeah, brilliant, glad to hear it.
Really good.
Yeah, the market hall, which has obviously had a massive success, huge success in its early weeks of opening. And that, but obviously we've got an ongoing portfolio of things. We're working on the Guildhall, we're working on the Assembly Room site, we're working on Castlewood. We want to bring forward more housing at the station quarter part of the city centre. So there's a whole range of things that we're continuing to do to support city centre regeneration. And I think the final thing I'd highlight is housing is becoming increasingly prominent. It always has featured, but it's becoming almost more prominent now in terms of the balance of work that I certainly look at when taking my service, because there is such demand, there are so many pressures and requirements through local plan targets that we have to meet. That means that we've got to really accelerate and push hard. And again, guess what? We can't do that on our own. We have to work with Hunting and we have to work with EMCA, and we have to make sure that we kind of bring in regional support for that. So that's just a kind of important.
lot about now is combined authority investment. For good reason, that it's a massive amount and the longevity of it is simply not simple and it's not like, if you like, a traditional grant scheme where you put your bid in, put your business case in, get your award, and then you've got a window of opportunity to deliver it against the funding partner's criteria. It's much more of a machine, it's much more ongoing. So, yes, there are some projects in the pipeline at the moment, very early stage development, there'll be some more for next year. But that's going to be continuous, so we'll have delivery and development running alongside each other, and it won't stop from here. Even on the current funding round, the assumption based on what's happening with combined authorities is that a funding round in the 2030s will be there as well, and it probably again will some form of advanced investment and advanced opportunity. So these things are going to just keep going. But I think building on some of what Tanya said, that what we want to see as well is that there is joined up inclusive investment. So as much as Tanya's looking at initially housing development, we are very much looking at how does that work from a transport perspective, or building a likelihood of an idea. How are our communities and our city going to function? The wider aspect is, we import about 90,000 vehicles a day from outside the city boundaries. We export about 60,000, and we have about 250,000 units per day within the city that are generated with the journey starts and ends in the city boundaries. So, it's a highly condensed network with lots of exchange of people across the region. Emphasis Regional Transport Plan, we have in the past had local transport plans. So our current plan is to the end of its 15-year life. We are, in the past, we've had periods where it's been statutory responsibility, and then it's not been statutory responsibility. It is once again a statutory requirement, but that requirement now sits within it. So we will have some degree of input into it, but MPL will drive that as the regional authority. I think, again, around investment zones, mobility around those zones for commercial, as well as getting to jobs, is a really important thing. And still on the subject of really where combined authority investment sits, the network management and the asset management is really important. MPL will want two key things from us, which is assurance that if they give us money we can deliver, and assurance that if they give us money we can deliver the right things. And asset management really is at the source about sustainability. So it's about, as I said earlier, getting the intervention right, but actually building in some sustainability to it. You can tick some of the climate adaptation boxes by offering drainage requirements and stuff, but there's also the ability to do innovative stuff in there with sustainable drainage, creating habitat rather than just a watercourse, or rather than just a concrete watercourse. There's all those sorts of opportunities which will add value, and that's going to be pretty much what we're looking for. And within the regional transport plan, there is going to be some sort of carbon reduction or carbon quantification methodology. And government still to publish that information to authorities, but we believe it is going to be important. And that's probably lends up. That's what we've published.
We thought we'd just focusing on the key areas now, as well as some of the big parts of what residents can do. So first of all, just picking up on the city centre, this is when a lot of the service activity comes together really, both from Burns and from Vibrancy. So I just wanted to pick out a few key areas there about what we're doing at the centre. So Catherine highlighted we've had some really big successes recently this year within the city centre, but it's kind of now what next for the city centre. So we're doing quite a bit of work around policy, strategy, and master planning. So which are the big areas of the city centre we need to focus on? What are they going to look like? And as you're aware, regeneration is a long-term process. process, and therefore we need to be thinking about what's our ambition for the city over the next 15, 20, 25, 30 years. What does that look like, and how do we take that forward? And there will be, as Catherine said, some big focuses on residential development within that. How do we deliver the homes we need for the city, and what role does the city centre play in that? And there'll be quite a lot of focus on how we drive commercial development in the city. So how do we bring office workers back into the city centre? Derby doesn't have grade A office space within the city centre. It's part. That is a part that's missing for our city. We're heavily dominated by retail in Derby for the size of the city. So how do we change the mix as the city centre starts to evolve in the current climate? As part of that, as Nigel highlighted, there's a strong connection with transport connectivity and movement. So how do people move around the city centre? It's a small city, but there are some real challenges around connectivity, movement, wayfinding, and that kind of feeds into what our streets feel like, what the spaces in between, how do we join up the opportunities that we've got around the market hall and the performance venue and the station, how do people move between the attractions. Our historic environment is a real asset for Derby, but also introducing constraints. So how do we bring back our entrances? How do we bring floors back into use? How do we create activity within our places? What is the future of shopping, eating and leisure? The kind of million-dollar question. People have got new ways of shopping these days. So do we need a retail core that is as big as it is currently? Do we need to start thinking about how that might contract? How do we bring other use cases to the centre? And then culture, tourism and vibrancy. I touched on this earlier on. There's an opportunity for Derby to look much more regionally in terms of its cultural and tourism offer. So how do we become a city destination? How do we attract and retain talent? How do we capitalise on the larger businesses bringing people into the city? How do we offer them something to do when they bring their families with them as well as the business? And then how do we act really as that, I suppose, southern gateway to some of the bigger attractions across the region? So are we the southern gateway into the Peak District and the Real Coast site, for example? How do we make the most of that? How do we promote that visitor offer? So there's quite a bit of work around joining our city centre into it.
And the next slide. So one of the key things that I've talked about is that strategic role around climate change, and we have a climate change action plan. And I guess it's the thing that I probably want to do. I know you're going to decide where you want to focus, but Exec Scrutiny has recommended to you that you focus on this. So I guess you need to consider that as you have your discussions. And there's certainly a lot in this plan that you may want to think about. What is it you want to scrutinise? So it's a new plan. It covers from up to 2027. There are 35 actions. So what we learned from the first time we had a go at doing a climate change action plan, that we actually need to sort of narrow things down and really get some focus on where we wanted to target. It talked about scope 1, 2, and 3 emissions, and again, if we depending on where you go, then we can give you more information about this and some of the data behind it. But hopefully, a few of you will be aware of scope 1 of those things like the fuel we use. Scope 2 is electricity we buy, and scope 3 is the really difficult one. The really difficult one because that's your indirect. So that's things like what you purchase and how does that manage. All our targets on our action plan is focused on scopes 1 and 2, and if you go to most councils, most organisations, you'll find that's what they're focused on too, because scope 3 is well, that's what we are. It covers all council services, so we may have that strategic lead, but again, how do we make it everyone's business, and how is everybody involved in doing that within the council? And we have climate champions. You've got councillor climate champions as well. This is a cross-party, cross-council plan and piece of work from a strategic point of view. We also work in collaboration with some key partners, and we have a Sustainable Development Partnership Board, which helps us do some of that. It very much links in strategically to that council plan and the green city, protecting and enhancing our environment. And it's anchored in, the plan itself is anchored with what are the co-benefits? Because I know as you can well imagine when you're out there talking to, people about what it is, and it's kind of quite an esoteric thing, might feel quite far away from climate change, but actually there are lots of co-benefits that go with the things we do, which might be things like, we're putting in insulation, retrofitting, that sort of thing. Are we reducing our energy bills for residents, but also we're getting cleaner air, cleaner streets around our small safe havens, for instance? Are we increasing physical activity because people are going to walk more? And we know we've got an issue with short journeys being taken by vehicles in the city, as well as that adaptation piece. How are we managing those extremes that climate is going to bring, our flood risk, extreme weather, heat, etc. Now, at the moment, there is a board for that action plan, so it's got a programme board, so it has scrutiny within and management governance within the council. So I guess that's something to think about when you of all of these things. So some of our key projects, which you might be interested in, but they've already got robust governance arrangements. They've already got a project management control office within the council. It has to go through, everything has to go through gateway processes. We manage the finances, etc. So it's really what do we want to drill down in. And again, the climate change action plan is monitored by our performance system. So it will come out again through everything that comes through. So that looks at the action plan specifically, that will come through as scrutiny as well, hence the recommendation coming to you today. And of course, one of the other things you might be interested in looking at is we have climate impact assessments that go with the decisions that Cabinet make. You might want to think about how effective they are. But so there's a lot in it, and there's a lot coming up through the actions. Certainly energy, transport, engaging young people, all of those things are in that action plan. But I guess it depends. You've been recommended to look at it, and it will really be how do you drill into what you want to look at in the slide, but it's really
So I mean, obviously it's up to you how you want to develop the work programme, but we thought it might be helpful for you to think about some of the shorter term immediate things that are coming through. So transition to MPEM, obviously is something that we're all facing, and that brings some real opportunities for us. There's some immediate things that are coming to bear over the next year, so we've touched on some of that, but things like the investment zone, for example, is one of those areas of the regional transport plan, climate change, and something to think about is how, what are the benefits that will be coming to Derby from that? Are we securing benefits we need for the city? But also, what's the regional impact that Derby can have to MPEM? And are we getting that balance quite right? Medium term, there are some things around developing a strong pipeline. How do we address some of those challenges and opportunities that we set out? Are we doing that right? And then finally, I suppose there's a kind of so what question for me. Are we tackling those entrenched problems? Is the work that the council's doing really beginning to make an impact on those kind of entrenched problems that we set out? And I suppose in considering what we've chucked a load of stuff at you, I'm really conscious that there's a whole lot to take in. But in considering what you might want to look at through the work programme, and we can bring that into discussion and help you think through that. But I suppose we want you to start to think about what is the benefit that scrutiny will bring to that topic area or that conversation. How best could that work be carried out? So it doesn't have to be, as Jack said at the beginning, in this formal setting. You might want to go, for example, and visit the investment zone and see what it is and what the opportunities are. What is the outcome you're trying to achieve from scrutiny looking at that particular topic area? What would look like? And then how would you like to engage with others? We've both set out that they're both outward-looking services. So do we want to bring other partners into the discussion or other decision makers as part of that conversation? Some things to think about as you talk through the work.
Thank you very much indeed. Have we got any questions? You're right.
Thank you, Chair. I got a few questions. Okay, so about the you talked about the marketing, and the marketing derby would be liaising with NCAP. So the question comes to me: are they like marketing Nottingham as well? Marketing, so all would be. So are these organizations self-funded or they get the money from NCAP? They are funded by the governance money?
Okay.
So, at the moment, Marketing Derby is funded through a combination of funding from the Shared Prosperity Fund and Lucky Daisies itself, who is bondholders membership organisation. There are a number of organisations across the region that perform a variety of functions that Marketing Derby is supposed to do around wood investment. MCO is currently undertaking a review of its wood investment function and its business support function to look at how business support and wood investment will be delivered across the region. And that work is ongoing at the moment and is due to report back to the end board, I think it's kind of towards the end of this financial year. So that will then set out what the future looks like for wood investment.
Who actually scrutinizes the work done by Marketing Derby? Because they can say, that was my question last year as well. They can say many things, If I'm writing a report, I can put a lot of buzzwords, and big things, knows the picture. But who actually scrutinizes? And you said you gave this much, to the city. Who's actually scrutinizing that?
So Marketing Derby is not a council body.
But we fund it.
No, we don't
No, we
fund at
don't.
all.
No, we don't.
We used to put about 100,000 a year in, but we've stopped now, haven't we?
We don't.
We do have a seat on their board, so the work of Marketing Derby is driven by their board, and we are members of that. And historically, obviously, that was really important when we were directly funded, and that was the way through which we could influence the plan, and we could ask challenging questions about the focus of their work. And obviously, we work really closely with them on an ongoing basis because we are part of particular, dealing with particular investment inquiries or presence at particular events or promotion. So we do work very closely with Marketing Derby. I think to Tammy's point, the funding mechanism is changing for investment. So it's no longer coming from local authorities. It's coming from a combination of the regional combined authority and, in Marketing Derby's case, business bondholders who pay a membership fee, essentially. And because of the combined authority, as you say, they're looking regionally at how best to organise and deliver investment work.
As a city, I'm just trying to understand the whole thing. Marketing Derby, marketing city of Derby. Now, who is the control of it? Because in your presentation, you brought up the fact that we could be a destination for the Peak District. So that's such a big opportunity for us. But if I go around the city anywhere, I don't see that message anywhere that we are the destination. We are the point from where you can take the journey to Peak District. I don't see that message anywhere. So if, as a city, we have to give that message out, who would be doing it for us?
So we have at the moment in development we have there's an organisation called Visit Derby, which is a destination management partnership, and that is a collaboration of various parts across the city. And there's also in development at the moment, MTA has taken the digital economy as one of its themes, if you like. So it's developing, the government has set up, I don't know if it's the government, but there's a regional organisation of tourism around local visitor economy partnerships. And we have one for Derby and Derbyshire. And MTA will therefore be leading a plan around the local visitor economy.
Could be, because at the moment there are lots of like various partners. I think if as a city, if we can have say in it, and I would, as a councillor, I would like to know who are the people making that decision, and I would like to ask questions to them, like how do you plan to do this? So if maybe if you,
The problem is you've got no say over Marketing Derby because we
Visit
don't.
Derby? This is Visit Derby.
Visit Derby. Right, okay.
this is Visit Derby.
Yeah, Visit Derby, we could talk to Visit Derby.
Yeah, that's what we would like to do.
But they are, again, on council.
They're not council function, so actually you can talk to them, but they don't have to do as you say.
No, yeah, but at least we would like to know what if they're looking for input, then as a city we can give them who's giving them the inputs. Are they going to do this on their own? Because you mentioned in your presentation that's one of the key points council is looking to do. So, and you mentioned you're looking to do that through Visit Derby.
What I would suggest is probably the best way forward is the local visitor economy plan will be going through MCA. So maybe at the point where we've got that plan, we could bring that here, and you could look at that to make sure that we've got the balance right for the city.
maybe that's the approach that would give you a hook, if you like.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, the point is really, really, I don't know why we haven't done it so far, but it's a very, when I come to Derby and use the Derby, if someone is visiting Derby as an individual, as a family, what do they get if they visit Derby? This is such a good opportunity for the city that you can actually travel from, we are the gateway for Peak District. You can stay here, spend a night, and then go for it's such a big opportunity. We need to cash on it. Do you know, sorry, can I ask a second question?
Go on, why not?
About the climate change thing. Um, so again, who are the people responsible for making decisions with regards to climate change impact for Derby? Who are the key people?
So the climate change plan has gone through Cabinet. So Cabinet approved the climate change action plan earlier this year. So Cabinet have made that decision, and that's an agreed action plan document that we own as a council.
So it's the cabinet that is the key. Yeah, they are the key people deciding about that. They are the ones who put Greta's picture on that slide. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Councillor.
I'm new to this committee, so forgive me, but is the local plan part of the remit of this committee?
It's communities, isn't it?
Or is it communities?
I think so.
Well, it will go through full council, so it's probably an executive.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I'd be concerned about in terms of planning for housing, all of these things that you're talking about obviously are impacted by the local plan. And also the impact of, I mentioned LGR, and how all that could change, and it's all a bit sort of up in the air, isn't it, at the moment?
Yes, very much so.
Yeah,
I've just been in another meeting about that.
We can make all these plans, and there's, we've got empathy. It's a very difficult time, really, isn't it? Because we've got, empathy on board, and then local government reorganisation sitting there in the wings, and we don't really know how that's going to impact on the planning for the city in terms of boundaries and things like that.
I don't think it'll impact on the boundaries per se, but I think that
No,
we won't get to, let's say, the 1st of May 2028 and suddenly everything's working perfectly across the whole. I think you're looking at 8 to 15 years before it actually starts to resemble something that looks like a functioning council. Because I think sometimes you sit and think about it, you think it's an enormous piece of work. It's got huge. It's just
anchor as well.
exactly, and this is where I think we need to be thinking about. It was interesting when you were talking about marketing Derby, and I was thinking, shouldn't we now be marketing East Midlands? Should it be bigger than that? I know we have no direct on that. I also think we need to start looking at the bigger picture, because it's coming. Local government reorganisation is coming, whether you like it or not. I personally think it's a great idea. It's coming, so we've got to start expanding our horizons and start to think about this. So I'm very interested in mobility, which I thought was very clever. I've never thought that in a million years. That's a really clever idea, and I would like to do some more on that. Right, any further questions? Good.
Sorry, just clarification first of all. On 4.5.5, it says with the change of funding on highways and extension. Is that just the word? Is that just is linked to the grant from the central government next year? And is that
Yes, it was directly from the Department of Transport, but now it goes directly to NPF and they send it to us.
so we've still got a run apart from what the council is doing in terms of transport and
everything by him. So whereas we used to get local transport plan from every year, which I used to go to funding for wider transport practice, and we used to have highway specific funding, we still get components, but we get them direct, we don't get them direct.
and then the council today needs to put money to your department as well.
Council has in the past periodically topped up money sometimes through borrowing and support for borrowing. Obviously, last few years, not that we're working to do. Previously, there was a known investment within terms of the 3 years, going back for a few years now. The investment this year is larger than it was in the last 2 preceding years, even without the benefit of helpful borrowing, potentially increase the net paying. It's likely that it will hold at that position or maybe increase it again next year. But the £2 billion funding announcement that came sustainable, 4.5 billion of that was the advanced transport funding. The other 500 million is basically all of the highways contacts of the TI well that are into facilities as well. The question is if they're increasing osmosis funding.
Yeah, but I can't remember the exact wording, but the report could put forward a priority for transport or the
That changed this year.
yeah. Yeah.
Not going through the process of taking priorities, but it's the areas to go plan around transport, but actually it can be wider than just transport. Transport might be a catalyst. And that is for a 3-year plan, looking at actually doing something ward by ward, which is more about placemaking, or if there isn't a geographic centre to the ward, then in the ward. Something that's very much a plan that allows us to go beyond the pure integrated block funding and access more of the funding for transport and mobility, green inclusion, sustainable sort of travel, linking up green spaces, parks, and stuff like that.
So previously the council would put that priority forward
Wishing to go through the before.
Yeah, they would forward it then detail.
Yeah.
And how is it moving forward detail from then?
No, we've secured the block of funding with some potential to enhance it.
Okay.
So the dialogue now is very much, it's quite a big change. So my service is trying to work with the team to try and develop the closing plans this year. And then we've got some money that we're holding at the moment that we can roll into next year and invest in the start of those plans. But then as those plans come together, it means that next year and the subsequent year, we can get for more front work here, or we can make a submission for more funding because they're actually making the same case as the bigger schemes, but they're more impactful in terms of the locality and walk.
Did you want to say about the local plan?
Yeah, I just wanted to come back on the local plan point. So the local plan falls under a slightly different set of procedurals, just to make things confusing. It's very similar to the budget process. So it's something that council has final decision making over, but there is a point at which cabinet will approve initial plans. There's a very clear process where scrutiny must be involved in between cabinet publishing its initial plans, then a scrutiny board taking the lead on the scrutiny of that, and then it being submitted back to cabinet, who would then submit it onto the council. I think one of the points we would say is generally a bit like with the budget, it would be for a board to be nominated to kind of lead on that scrutiny, but it would be great for each board. It's something that crosses over, perhaps to nominate a representative to go along to those meetings. So it's absolutely true that matters under the remit of the Regeneration Board will come up in the scrutiny of the local plan, and so perhaps it'll be a case of sending a representative to that scrutiny meeting.
Okay. Mark, did you want to ask a question?
Not really a question, but what's the review on the work programme going forward? Are we going to come on to that, or am I jumping the gun?
No, you're fine.
Okay. Well, I think what we've in the presentation was very strong, and what I agree with very strongly is that the city centre's got to remain there. The focus for the council and for us is Scrutiny, because we're going through this once in a generation really transformation of the role of the city centre. It used to be very functional about people coming in and doing their shopping, and now there's so many other options for people to do that. It's got to transform into a place where people come to have an experience, and it's got to be reasons other than retail for people to come in and make that choice. So I think we've come a long ways seen in the last year in terms of Valent Live opening and the market hall, which has both been really successful. But it's we're only partway there, so we've got to keep the momentum going. I think our role in Scrutiny is, I think, about supporting officers in the cabinet to keep the aspirations high and to keep moving it forward. Because there are still issues, we all know what they are, and sort of know what the solutions are, but there's lots of pieces to the jigsaw, and it's not about doing just one thing, it's about doing a lot of things to make it successful. And it is really important, because when people think of Derby, they think of the city centre, and it has such a big impact reputationally for the city, for the council, for all of us, and what we're doing. So that just be my proposal, Chair, is to keep the focus on that.
I think
we're looking at our work plan.
I think that's everything you said there. I think was very good, particularly about coming into the city centre for an experience. I think it, I remember going shopping when I was a lad. You didn't go out for meals and eat. You didn't go out for a meal unless it was your birthday. You didn't go to McDonald's every week. It seems to be the norm nowadays, or however it is. But now it is different. You are coming into the city centre. Yes, you want to do a bit of shopping, but you want to have an experience about that as well. And that's what I think. My personal view is that the market hall has just been refurbished. Hits that on the head, because you come in there and you have an experience. And there's shopping, food, retail at the same time. And I've been told today, when I've met the guy that's going to open the fruit veg stall in there very shortly. A friend of mine, Benjamin, he's going to. And I think once you've got that in there, it can almost not be total shopping experience, but it's getting there. It's still got that feeling of a market, but actually it's beyond that, isn't it? You go in there, and I think it is a wonderful experience. So I think what you said there is right. I've got on my list city centre regeneration of something I would like to look at, but we'll discuss that in a minute. Councillor Cobb.
Yeah, I mean, I second the city centre focus. I think we've had some good discussions over last year, and it'd be good to build on them. Another thing, I think, is it the last board or the board before that, I think Councillor Holmes might have been chairing a really good conversation about traffic and transport. And I think personally it helped me consider a lot of things that I hadn't considered before about the traffic impact, especially with all the changes with MPA, and how we look at the overall approach. And I think I was thinking very narrow-mindedly about, here's a little yellow and here's how we improve it. But the things we were talking about last time, the overall approach, it was really good to revisit. I think that was our initial conversation, but I very much want to revisit. I think that'd be really good.
Yeah, I've got
One of the things we've looked at more in the report is we are expecting at least some sort of draft of principles or something like that of the local transport plan in September. Transport committee, is it?
It's meeting September committee at the moment, and virtual for
So that might be a nice thing for to bring here, what's on there, and then we've got that really high regional strategic view, and then we can look at exactly the two things that Tammy referred to, what's Derby's regional significance, and are we getting what can Derby get out of it? Now we've got this bigger regional framework, and we might go down all the way to what Derby do in neighbourhoods and that integrated piece. So
I've got a regional transport plan down here because I think we need to start thinking now about mobility, as you said, and linking up with Nottingham. I mean, do we want the tram to come to Derby? I don't know. But those are things that we need to think about. Is linking in with the other cities. You know, what can we offer them, and how can we get them to come here? You know, and people come here and spend their money in our economy. And you know, to be honest with you, I go there if I want to go to a show, and it's not something, you know, there wasn't a good enough venue in Derby before. And I remember we went to the ice ring in Nottingham, I can't remember what it's called now, to see Mikey Flatley. And we went during the day, had a shopping experience, went to the show and stopped overnight. They came back the next day. And that's what we want people from Nottingham coming here and doing that, having an experience of shopping, having a meal here, seeing a show, stopping the night and spending. And I think we need to start thinking about that as a bigger thing. I've got down on my list regional transport plan that we want to look at, which is what we just mentioned, which is great. Councillor Bonza, do you want to come back?
Yeah, I was just going to say, in terms of the city centre as well, and you mentioned the cultural aspects and the reasons to come into the city, and you know, looking again at the you know, people come to the city centre to use the museum, the court, you know, and the sustainability of those organisations, museum, court, guildhall, museum.
Also, we want to attract people here, and it's how we get the right mobility for them to use. Yeah, go on.
I'm sorry, just to update you on the Visit Derby. It's a great website, but I think we need some update about the Valiant and Market Hall. But it's an amazing, fantastic website. Anyone coming to Derby, if they look at this website, they would love to visit Derby. But I think if we can replicate the same, you know, similar theme to the city, you know, that will create a kind of buzz amongst people who come to Derby. This is a great website. I really like. Our first time, like, you know, I've explored it.
Okay.
I'm loving it.
Good. I think we've come to a view of some of the items that we want on here, and I read the list down and they've been confirmed. Some of them have been confirmed. Mobility and infrastructure, what we've talked about. I think we need to. That I would very much like on the forward plan, on the work programme going forward. We spoke about city centre regen, that was on here as well. I think that's really important that we look at that and get an overview. And the regional transport plan. What else would you like to say on there? Now, I'll just give you the three others that I've put down. I want to talk about housing demand and want to see what that is, because housing is a problem. I was amazed to see a friend of mine the other day was advertising renting his house, and I used the term loosely, at £850 a month rent, and I couldn't believe how little you got on rent. But as he said, you can charge what you like. So I'll be very interested in housing demand, but we'll come to that in a minute. I think one thing that we should all be very interested in is the East Midlands Combined Authority, what investment they're going to give and put into us. Let's chase the money. I think that's an important one. And I would like to also look at the Climate Change Action Plan. They were just they're my ideas, as well as the Mobility, City Centre Regen and Regional Transport Plan that we've got on there. Councillor Bonza.
I mean, I'd also be very interested in the housing element in the city centre.
Yep.
And that's really what was driving my question about the local plan, you know, because it's about the right sort of housing as well, isn't it? You know, what's being planned, and is it the right sort of housing? You know, we know there's housing shortages, but is it family accommodation that we need? Is that what's being provided? You know, is that so it does sort of feed into the local planning and planning.
I think Jack wants to say something on that plan.
So housing does fall under the communities board. So there's a point there, but I think there's certainly scope for work to think about how the regeneration board's work can overlap with communities, or come together at least, not so much overlap. I'm thinking particularly there seems to be a link through the city centre here by the sounds of things.
Wondering whether actually, in terms of spatial planning of the city centre, there might be a focus for regeneration, scrutiny, working with housing scrutiny, but thinking more about where housing might be delivered in the city footfall, what's the role of housing impact, rather than what's the housing demand, which probably falls more strongly.
More in community. You got anything else, Jack? Are you okay?
No.
Go on, what do you want to say?
And sorry, so recently, the news was about the enforcement lane cameras. So at the city, we are finding a lot of people coming to the city. So it could be happening they're ignoring signs, but we really, I think, need to look at if there's a possibility of maybe improving the signage. So could
I
we?
think that will probably come to mobility and infrastructure, wouldn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, there are two streets in Sydney which has generated a huge amount of money for the council. We really, if we can have a look at
Goes
those.
directly into Burners pocket, purchasing policy, doesn't it?
It's millions and
So,
millions of pounds.
yeah, she's a very much right. You've not seen her yacht. I think that comes under mobility and infrastructure, but I think we need to be looking a bit higher than, let's have a look at this street. Let's have a look at how it works across the city, what the policy is across the city, not necessarily the street out here, because but that's too small. So have you got any other priorities? I've got 6 down here that I want to work on. I don't think we want to go and have money more than that, because otherwise you're rushing through it, or you're here till 10:30 at night, which I'm not a fan of. No, not when you've got grandchildren running around. It's hard work. So the 6 that we've got, and I think we're all agreeing on: mobility and infrastructure, housing demand, city centre regen, for investment, climate change action plan, regional transport plan. They're the ones I've got. Are we all happy with all of those? I take it you've just made a note of all that. You're very clever young man. Yes, I did. Climate change action plan.
Things we would recommend for next.
Well, I don't care what they say, to be honest with you, Chief. So I think yes, but it was on our minds anyway. So that's what I said. But I mean, okay, and we think along the same lines anyway. Is what I think I'm trying to say. Stop taking your glasses off, then. So what impact would you like to have? I mean, do you just want an overview of it, or do you want a bit more in depth in it? And what as was said here earlier, what would be a good outcome? And that's a really tough question, isn't it? I think, Verna, would you like to advise this?
I suppose I would come back to the 2 points that you made, Tammy, particularly as a lot of you were thinking about Derby in the context of that regional. What is it? Can you remember the words? What is
City lines of inquiry we talked about, didn't we? So what are the things that you want to focus on? So you mentioned city centre, you might want to, for example, say what's the city centre experience? Have we got that right? What's our housing? How are we going to deliver housing in the city centre in terms of housing-led regeneration? So those might be your 2 key lines of inquiry for your city centre. You might want to do something similar around some of the areas where you're thinking, I don't know what it might be, but say the regional transport plan. You might think about what is Derby delivering and for the region, but also what's the region delivering.
That's where I am. I'm thinking that up there. I know Jack wants to come in with a few. What do you want to say, Jack?
I was just suggesting to kind of guide discussion. I mean, we've got in the report on 2.1, you've got these 4 questions, and perhaps for each of these 6, maybe a good way of structuring discussion would be to say, first of all, do we understand the benefits that scrutiny would bring to this issue? And I think this is what the board is starting to do in the city centre, kind of on the topic we're doing it with each of those. Also then thinking about how it would be best to do that work. And I think one of the points I'm interested in talking about the transport plan, it's about timing and getting an understanding, getting a steer from officers, kind of when's it going to be best to hear this and in what kind of format. Started talking about the outcome. That is, of course, a very difficult point, but I think really what that question is trying to get down to is really giving Tammy and Werner the best idea of what exactly it is you're wanting to focus on. What is it? What's the principle behind this that you're really trying to kind of improve?
I think we need more of an understanding of it. I think that's what a good outcome for me would be, forgive me this says, is to actually understand it. Because I know, we can come out with certain things, but actually understanding what it means and what you're trying to achieve is quite important for me. Sometimes we have these things and I'm still not entirely sure where we're heading with it. So I think the 6 items we've got down here, I think they're the ones to go for, which I think we've all agreed on. Would you agree? And then, I think we've come out with a good outcome would be for us to fully understand what each of those 6 items are, and I think we have to leave it at 6, because otherwise it can be too much. We'll only meet 3 more times this year. But go on.
In the pre-planning meeting, we asked about what we have done in the past, and if you can get an overview of, especially we talked about the blue and green city plan, how much we achieved from that plan, and the amount of funding. Because, like I said last time, we made big plans, and then I asked the question, where's the funding? I was told there was no funding available. We really need to get a good account of what we are saying that we'll achieve. Have we got the money to achieve that?
Excuse my hay fever's going to really start. I think the money really has come from East Midlands Combined Authority. That's where the money's coming from. And we've got to make sure that we get as much out of it as we possibly can. My ears prick up when someone's saying we've got money coming from the Combined Authority. My ears prick up, and I know with the officers it's exactly the same as well. So, yeah, I'm quite happy with that and where we're going with that and what I want to get out of it, which is to understand it. And I think that's the important thing. So, Jack, anything else?
I guess the challenge for the board there would it be better to try and get that understanding before the committee meetings, so then you come in and that you're able to properly engage with it. I guess the question there is whether there is a certain amount of information, perhaps through guidance, through organisations like the LGA or other things that I can support committee members to be able to come together and kind of deliberate over. So then you're in a really good position to come into meetings and actually really engage with the specifics.
I think that's a bad idea, actually.
Okay.
So we could have not meetings or Teams meetings or whatever, just to go through things, and so when we come in here we are ready. I said ready for the officers, but that's the wrong way of wording it, isn't it? No, so we can work in partnership with the officers and understand it, maybe even add a little bit of value.
Well, that is the aim. That is, we can't do anything in local government without there being value in it. And I think that's something to really bear in mind.
Okay, so I'm happy to go away and you and I talk about how we're going to deliver that.
And that perhaps that process as well can help guide. I think that the 6 are a really good start, but we'll want to give you a little bit more to understand what exactly you're asking for. But perhaps those meetings and as you kind of learn more about it, that will be where we can do a little bit more honing in.
Yeah.
Just thinking purely from an officer's perspective in how we can best engage with you as Scrutiny and give you the information and the subject matter almost to get the most out of it. I think the information kind of education piece, if you like, or getting up to a level playing field of knowledge about a particular topic is good. But back to Tammy's point, having really specific questions that are burning in your mind about a particular topic that you want answering would be a really helpful steer for us in focusing what we bring to you. So in the city centre regeneration example, if the question was, what is the council doing to improve the visitor experience in Derby, and is that the right thing? That really kind of focuses our minds then on answering a specific question. The city centre regeneration is massive, isn't it?
It's huge, but city centres have changed so much over the last 40 years.
Yeah.
I mean,
it doesn't have to be that question. That was just a kind of example, just as a scheme for us.
Well, I think Jack and I will go away and work out how we're going to achieve this. I'm thinking sort of half an hour Teams meeting on each subject prior to the meeting. I'm just looking at the next meeting that goes to the 7th of October, which I don't know about you, but for me seems ages away. But of course it will be here in a sneeze. So we need to work out how we're going to do that, Jack. I'm happy to sit down with you and we can work that all out.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Yes, that's it. So so I've got down here for the next meeting on the 7th of October we want to have discussions, or we'll work out how we're going to do this. Mobility and infrastructure, housing demand on that one.
Just a flag, I think the housing demand then would kind of switch into more of that kind of spatial strategy and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
But we can,
Yeah.
I'm going to be broad here.
Yeah.
And then 13th of January, we've got this, 2026 actually.
Oh goodness.
Right, can't get the stat. City Centre Regen and EMPA investment. And then the 3rd of March, Climate Change Action Plan and Regional Transport Plan. Are we all happy with that? Yeah. Okay. No, that's it then. So thank you all very much indeed. It's 7:10. I'll now close the meeting. Thank you all for attending. Pleasure.